Hello everyone, it's day 15, it's me Matt, this is the Explorer's Box, here we go. Today I've got my potion bottles back because I'm going to be doing a little modification to our box. I'm going to show you how to make some little leather loops that are going to become a storage system for the potions so that they can slot in nicely on the roof. They're not going to rattle around, they're not going to rattle and shake and crack everywhere, they're just going to be nice and safe. Now, as every good adventurer needs potions to keep them alive and wizards to keep their mana in check, they need somewhere safe to put them. Now previously, I've just been standing mine upright in the box with everything else, and that's been fine until the box goes anything like that and they fall and rattle around. So, what I'm going to suggest is we've got this nice deep lid, and I'm going to make some leather loops, or rather a leather strap that becomes loops that these potions slot into that will keep them nice and safe. What you're going to need for this project is some metal, some leather offcuts, some rivets, a hammer, a pen, some paper, and I think that actually might be everything.
Hole punch.
And a hole punch. So, to start off, I'm going to cut this is just some scrap steel, into two lengths, and it's going to become like a sort of iron banding around the box. But what this is going to do is I'm going to be drilling holes all the way through the box to poke the rivets through to attach the leather to the inside, and this is going to act as a protective layer on the outside of the box so that when I'm hammering the rivets in, they're not like caving in and like indenting the softwood on the top. It's optional, but I think it makes the box look much nicer. I'm actually going to have them overlap the front of the box a little bit because I think that looks quite cool. So I'm going to cut my piece of steel to about 22 centimetres, and I'm going to do two of them. That gives me enough for a little bit of an overlap on both sides. I'm going to use the ruler on top of the metal to make a 45-degree, is it 45 degree?
90 degrees.
To make a 90-degree angle. And then mark the second one. Then I'm going to use my tin snips, which are like very heavy duty scissors, and I'm just going to snip. Now, for the moment, they are done. I'm going to come back to them when we've decided where the holes are going in the wood and where the leather's going, because that is going to allocate where they go. Next, we're going to want a nice scrap of regular council issue paper. Thick width of the ruler again we're going to do, and I'm just going to measure and mark a strip the length of the A4, fold it in half and score it. This is going to be the rough template for our leather strips. So next of all, we're going to want to work out where our potion bottles are going to go. So I'm going to divide this top lid into 5, the amount of potions you have plus 1, and that will give us a dot where the middle of each potion will sit. Then we're going to tack them in place with our glue gun so that they're held roughly where they need to be, and from that we can work out where the middle of the rivets are going to go and where the leather and whatnot is. So let's get cracking. I'm going to mark in from the edge 40mm, and then to divide it by 5 is 34. So we've got our marks, then I'm just going to tack a little bit of glue on. So this is what they're going to end up looking like. Of course, if you wanted these potions just to be decorative, you could glue them down and they could stay glued down, but we're only tacking them for the moment. Then you're going to want to take your A4 bit of paper and just push it in to make sure it's longer than you're going to need. It's roughly the same length. The leather I'm going to use today is the same as the leather we used for the tankard loop. This is some 2mm suede. 2mm suede. You could use some veg tan and wet mould leather over the potion bottles. However, this way the leather is going to stay soft and supple, and we can tighten it over the potion bottles so it keeps them nice and secure. If you're wet moulding the leather, it's going to be set at a shape, and you can do it tight to the potion bottles, but if it flexes and loosens, then it's not going to hold them in as well. So I'm going to cut these slightly thinner. Actually, I'm going to use a different ruler to cut them. I'm going to do them with my small ruler. However, they are going to be the same length as the original ruler, just to complicate things. You're going to end up with 2 leather strips that are slightly longer than you need them to be. We're then going to want to fold them in half, and with a biro or a pencil, you're going to want to mark the middle of each strap. Because what we're going to do is we're going to hole punch a hole in this strap, we're going to drill a hole all the way through the box, and we're going to work from the middle out. To work out where all the holes are going to go and how we're going to set everything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill into the box. So I'm going to mark 50mm in from the edge, which will give me a nice even line down both ends, and it will look symmetrical on the outside of the box. Then we're going to want to find the middle point between each bottle and mark across. I'm going to take my trusty drill. In this case I've got a 3mm drill bit, and I'm going to very carefully drill Now we've got our holes drilled, we're going to close the box. Now you'll notice there's some blowouts. What you can do to reduce that is have a piece of wood underneath your work. However, I'm just going to cut these off. This will all be covered up by the metal. We're then going to use these holes to mark what's going on with our metal. Just getting Andy to tack the metal in place, just so that it will stay where I want it to be. Then when this is dry, we're going to flip it over. We are going to mark through the holes on the other side, and hopefully it all lines up. It might take a couple goes flipping it inside and outside to make sure the holes are central on your piece of metal. Now, as you can see, or we might not be able to see too well, I've taken these off and they are very much one side of the work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these dots, and I'm going to draw a line the whole length, and then we're going to find the middle of the metal. So we're going to centre the holes on the metal, because that's the bit that's going to look odd if it's not correct. Now that we have our hole centres, I'm going to drill these holes. Ideally, you want to centre punch your holes first so that your bit knows exactly where it's going, but I am going to use what I like to call a screw instead. When that's done, you're going to want to take a countersink and just deburr the edges of these holes. And then just as an extra measure, I'm going to widen the holes inside the box. What you might need to do is just drill through the top face now, just to widen the holes in the wood a little bit more, just in case everything isn't quite lining up. So now that all of our clearance holes and our metal holes have been drilled, I've taken the potion bottles out and I've just given the wood a little zhuzh up with some wood stain, same as before, just to cover up any mistakes we've made. Then you're going to want to take your leather strips and you're going to want to punch a hole in the middle on the mark that we made. I've done a 3mm hole again, and this is where the fun begins. This middle is where we're going to work out from. It's going to be the first things we rivet in place. So you're going to want to take your leather, place it over that middle hole, hold it in place. You're going to want to take your bit of metal, hold it in place as well, grab the bottom cap of a rivet, have it poke all the way through, take a top cap of a rivet, we're still using leather rivets, and just push it in place. That should hold itself nicely. This gives you a chance to make sure your metal on the top is in a good enough position. Then we're going to need a hard surface underneath to hit into. So I'm just going to take this over to our little anvil because you've seen me bash rivets before. Now what we're going to want to do is kind of all by hand really. We're going to want to take our potion and loop the leather over. This is why it's longer than it needs to be, because it's hard to judge, and you're going to want to sort of play around with how tight it needs to be to get in. So if you hold it down where the placement of the rivet is, in this case I'm going to take a pencil because I can just hold it in there, it will show you how much room you have, so you can move it along a little bit. That's tight, but it's holding it in place. Maybe a little bit tighter. I think that's good. So I'm going to just mark that with my pencil. Use my hole punch. Then I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to put the rivet through and I'm going to bash that into place. And there we have our first loop. Now that's actually ended up a little bit tighter than when I was holding it there by hand, which is okay. There's still movement, I can still get it in and out, and actually that's good. It means it's going to be in there nice and secure. Same again, this last one's probably going to be a bit trickier because it's on the end. And now that I've got one bit in place, I can also go and do this side. So that's it, all done. That's all the straps in, ready for the potion bottles. The only thing I need to do now is just trim off the ends of the metal. I was going to fold them down, and in fact I did on the back. However, I wasn't able to rivet them in strongly enough and well enough, so it's just easier to cut the metals straight. So obviously when I originally cut them, I cut them over length with the idea of folding it over. It's just easier to cut them to the length of the top of the box, really, in hindsight. However, that is what I'm here to do, show you how not to do it so you can do it better. So I'm just going to whiz them off with my little Dremel. It's like a rotary tool, or you could use an angle grinder, and then sand the edges nice and smooth. So there we have it. The potion bottles have a nice, safe home to live in now. Secure so that they won't break or knock about, and easy enough to take out that if you're in a hurry and you need to get some healing done, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I'm just going to pop these last ones in and then show you the outside. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. There's still time to enter if you haven't already, so remember to get those emails in. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.